Hello and welcome back to Children's Reading Cove. Let's dive into part 3 of The Merchant of Venice. In Belmont, Portia led the Prince of Morocco into the room where the caskets were kept. The prince was a handsome man whose white robes showed off his dark skin. He stared at the caskets, picked up the one made of lead, and read the words inscribed on it. "If you choose me, you must risk all that you have." The prince put down the casket. "Risk all that I have? For lead?" he snorted. "I will risk nothing for a common metal. What is the inscription on the silver casket? If you choose me, you will get as much as you deserve." The prince laughed. "Ha! This could be the right casket. I deserve the best, and Lady Portia would be the best wife for me." "But I'll wait until I've read the inscription on the gold casket. If you choose me, you will get what many men desire. This must be the one. Many men want to marry Lady Portia, and a prize like her must be in a casket made from the most precious metal of all." The prince lifted the lid of the gold casket and cried out in dismay. Inside was a human skull with a small roll of parchment in one of its eye sockets. The prince unrolled the parchment and read, "All that glistens is not gold, as you often have been told. You have chosen outward show, so now say farewell and go." Without another word, the prince left the room, and Portia heaved a sigh of relief. The next afternoon in Belmont, the Prince of Aragon took his turn at choosing between Portia's 3 caskets. He stroked his beard and spoke his thoughts aloud. "Lead is too crude for my taste," he said, "and gold is too obvious. I choose the silver casket." The prince opened the casket and found a miniature painting of a man dressed as a jester. With the painting was a parchment scroll which read, "This picture makes it plain to see that you have chosen foolishly. Though you are strong, your mind is weak, and you are not the one I seek." The prince bowed to Portia. "I will not make an even bigger fool of myself by staying any longer, milady," he said, and left. The next moment, Nerissa burst into the room. "You'll never guess who I met in town, miss," she jabbered. "Bassanio. He's on his way here to ask you to marry him. Isn't it romantic?" Portia felt as excited as Nerissa, but kept her feelings hidden. "Romantic or not, he will have to take the test like all the other suitors," she said solemnly. Bassanio and Portia were delighted to meet again. Portia explained the peculiar conditions of her father's will. Bassanio admitted that he was poor and described how and why Antonio had borrowed money from Shylock. Finally, Bassanio said, "Show me the caskets. Let me choose." Portia was afraid. If Bassanio chose wrongly, she would lose him forever. "Wait a few days," she begged. "I can't bear to," said Bassanio. "I have to know if we're to spend our lives together or apart." Portia led Bassanio to the room where the caskets were kept, and he examined them. "Evil often disguises itself," he said. "In court, a guilty man hides his crime behind a clever argument. Cowardly soldiers mask their fear by pretending to be brave. But this lead casket doesn't seem to be hiding anything." With shaking hands, Bassanio opened the casket. Inside was a portrait of Portia and a scroll that read, "You have not chosen with your eyes, but with your heart, and you are wise. Turn now to where your lady is, and claim her with a loving kiss." So Bassanio and Portia were married and were blissfully happy. As the weeks turned into months, Bassanio almost forgot about his previous life. Then one morning at breakfast, he received a letter from Venice. As he read the letter, he gasped in horror. "Is it bad news?" inquired Portia. "The worst," Bassanio said. "Antonio's ships have been lost at sea. Shylock has had him thrown into prison and says that Antonio must keep his bond." "Give Shylock his 3,000 ducats," exclaimed Portia. "Give him 6,000 if he wants." Shylock's daughter ran off and got married. She took money from her father's cash boxes. "The shock has hardened Shylock's heart," Bassanio said. "He insists on his pound of flesh. Antonio goes on trial for debt in a few days." "We owe him our happiness," said Portia. "You must go and see him at once." While Bassanio was packing for his trip, Portia called Nerissa to her and told her about Antonio. "Poor fellow," Nerissa sighed. "I'm going to help him," announced Portia. "My cousin, Dr. Bellario, taught me a lot about the law when I first tried to understand Father's will. I'll call on him, ask him for a letter of introduction to the Duke of Venice, and discuss Antonio's case. Then you and I are off to Venice, disguised as lawyers." End of part 3. Join me again soon for part 4 and see how the story ends. Bye-bye.